Hey everyone, welcome back to a HaasOnline training session. In this session, we're going to take a look at the C# wrapper around the Haas API. Now, originally we already looked at the Python wrapper, which allows you to interact with the Haas API using a Python library or module. In this session, we're going to cover how to do this with C#. So for those who are more familiar with the .NET environment, this might be a welcome surprise. So there's a few things we're going to assume you already have done. The first is going to be that you have Haas running with the API server enabled, and you can verify by opening up this, open API server started, and then the stuff you set. If you're not familiar on how to do this, the information will be in the wiki for you. The other thing we're going to assume is that you have Visual Studio 2017 installed. This could work with older versions, but for the sake of simplicity, we're going to use the latest and greatest. I'm using the community edition here. You can use the pro version. That's perfectly fine. Now, the first thing we want to do is we're going to need to build the library. The library is not pre-packaged as it's still actively developed, so you have to do this yourself. To do this, just simply go ahead and go to the HaasOnline GitHub, which will be in the description below, and you're going to look at the HaasOnline Public Local API C#. Go ahead and click that, and you're going to be taken to this, and you'll see that the last update was about a month ago, which is about correct. That's the last, at time of this filming, that was the last time we added new endpoints. So we're going to go ahead, just click this. We're just going to download the zip. Once that's downloaded, show in folder, you're going to need to unzip it. To do that, just right click, or if you don't have pzip or something fancy installed, you can just double click this and extract it. Excuse me. Using Windows built-in zip, but I use pzip, so I'll just extract here. Okay, once it goes ahead and does all that, I guess I should have showed you, sorry, multiple monitors. But essentially what's going to happen is you're going to have the zip folder in your downloads folder. Just right click it, go to pzip or whatever zip program you're using, extract here. Once it's extracted, it'll go ahead and make this folder. Let's go ahead and open it, and then this package here, the solution file, which will be 2 kilobytes, says HaasOnline Public Local API C#. Go ahead and double click that and just click Visual Studio 2017. Now what this is going to do is it's going to go ahead and open it up for us. And as you can see here, if you ignore my glasswire stuff there, we can see that we have the HaasOnline client, which is what we need, and then this program CS file. Now by default, this project's designed so you can just actively start developing like this. But if you're like me, you like to use keep your projects kind of separate, have your DLLs and your APIs all wrapped together. So there's two ways we could do this. We can just start developing our application here and then hit build. But if you're like me, you want to keep it separate. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to delete this program.cs folder or file. We're going to go here, right click the project and click properties, and this output type, we're going to switch that to class library and hit save. So now if we go ahead and hit start on the debug, it's going to build the library. It's going to complain saying it can't run because it can't. But if we look here, the build succeeded and our C# DLL was created. Now there's something else I like to do, and this is more of a personal preference. So if I go to API base and scroll down here, this console.write line, this actually is debug information. It's useful if we're trying to see exactly what commands are going over the REST API, but because I'm using this has its own independent DLL, I'm just going to go ahead and delete that line, save it, and then close it, and then just rebuild again. And to make sure that works, we can right click the project, hit rebuild, builds fine. And since we're already going to be working with a release version, I don't want the debug information. Let's go ahead and click release, rebuild that, and that will build our release version. So now if we look over here and back into our folder, go into this, go to bin, release, we will see we have two files. We have the two files we care about is Newtonsoft JSON DLL and the C# lib. So we're going to go ahead and delete these others. And those are the two we care about. So now that we're done with that, let's go ahead and close that Visual Studio. Yep. Open up a new one, and we're just going to create a new project. Now what we're going to name this project is we're just going to pick the default path. We're going to make it a console app for our case. and name it Haas test. Okay. Hit enter. Once it's done being built, we need to copy these files. So I'm just right click copy, navigate to where this project is, and if you pick the default like me, it's going to be in Documents, Visual Studio 2017. Well, thought that's where it will be. A few seconds. Let's try this. Go to my user, source. Yeah, so user source, repos, Haas test, and then right here, we're going to create a new folder called lib with an S. Click it and just paste those files in there. Now, finally, to add the Haas DLL to our project, just right-click here to add. Right-click on References, hit Add Reference, Browse, and then you're going to hit the Browse button down here. Go to our repos folder, libs, and then highlight both of these. And hit OK. And that's it. That's all we need to do. We now have access to the Haas libraries. So if you need to take a break, go take a break. If not, when we come back, or when you come back and resume this, we'll go ahead and continue. All right, so let's go ahead and get started on actually building a useful application. And similar to the way we did the Python one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to connect to the Haas, make sure you have a valid connection. We're going to get all the account GUIDs. We're going to get the account information. Then what we're going to go ahead and do is I'm just going to show you how to spin up a Scalper bot this time and configure it, activate it, so on and so forth. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, there is a pre-existing call in Haas to actually get it, find out if its credentials are correct, but I actually prefer to do something else. Generally, I like to get the wallet information, but it's up to you. When I do it, I do the wallet information because I want to verify the secret key is good. But in this case, for a quick, we're just going to go ahead and check the enabled accounts. So the first thing we need to do is we need to import the HaasOnline include. So we're going to do using HaasOnline dot local API C#, and then messed up here. Should be public dot local API dot C#, and we'll just put that. And that should pull in everything we need from the local API. And then we're going to do a HaasOnline client. Now the HaasOnline client's the class that actually contains all of the information we need, or contains all the functions to the other APIs like the account, the bot, or the account, the custom bots, trade bots, or manual trades, etc. So we're going to just do this real quick. If you're not familiar with C#, I apologize, but I am making a quick assumption that you know a bit about how to write in the language. So the HaasOnline client class, or the constructor, takes three parameters. It takes the IP address, has a string, the port number, and then the private key. All this was set up when you configured the local API in Haas. So we're just going to go ahead, put our information here. And if you know anything about me, I like using herp for my secret key in these videos. And since we're in C#, these actually have to be double quotes. For those who are developers, you can tell I write a lot of Python. Okay, so now that we have the HaasOnline client, what we're going to want to do is we're going to go ahead and get the enabled accounts. Now there's something very important to note. For developers who are familiar with async programming, the Haas REST library, or this wrapper, is 100% async calls. That means that you're not exactly guaranteed to have a result when you on the next function call. So for example, if we wanted to get the enabled accounts, we can do var accounts equals HaasOnline client dot account data API dot get enabled accounts. Now the problem with this is that if we do this, our right line accounts, let's just assume that works, I have no guarantee that accounts will actually have a return value. This is a very, very big problem. So if our entire app's async, then this is fine. But because generally the applications people are going to make are, there's a word for this, starts with an S, synchronous. If for most of the apps people are going to make are synchronous, meaning they have to do one action, wait for it to finish, so on and so forth. So what I actually like to do is I like to cheat. So to do this, I basically make a task. So I'll do a task.run async. And for developers who know how to write with pure async calls in C# land, you don't have to do this. You can just accept it, wait for I guess the appropriate word in JavaScript land would be promise, wait for the promise, and then just process it when the result's there. But for our sake, and for this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to do this by forcing a synchronous method. So if we go accounts.wait, and then I'm just going to type this up so you can see it, and then I'll walk through. Let's do that. Okay. So what we need to explain here first off is basically what we're going to do is we create a task, and in that task we're actually calling this get enabled accounts, and we're awaiting it. We're waiting for it to finish in that task. Then what we do is we actually call wait on the task itself. That way we can guarantee that the call is done by the time we actually process it. The next thing we need to do is, if you're familiar with the Python version, basically a Haas response is result, come on, result, error code, and then error message or message. So what we need to do is first we got to call the result from the task, which will return the object that this was. Then we got to call the result from the HaasAPI return JSON object. If I'm losing you, don't worry. All you got to remember is check the result. So let's go ahead and run this and see what happens. So hit start. Okay, it goes through, and you'll see that it returned a name. But let's get a little bit more information. So all I'm going to do is, for the sake of being lazy, we're just going to do a new line, and we're going to do account.result, and I know that results a map. It's a dictionary because that's what it tells me. Thankfully, in C# land, you get a bit more information about what the return types are going to be. And then we'll just do a read line to pause here. So now we see we have one account called simulated test, and then here is its account GUID, which is great. We're going to need that information moving forward. But like I said, when I'm trying, the first thing we need to do is make sure we have a valid connection, and all this comes around. And generally what I do for C# is I check to see if I have any length in this result, and if that's true, then I go ahead and process correctly. As long as my my return is larger than 0. So to do that, I would basically just do, if I'm right, it's been a while since I wrote some C#, if result dot count is greater than 0. Now, this will return 0 if there isn't any valid accounts. We're making an assumption that there's valid accounts here, and you can see we're valid. So if you're going to make your little function, let's just go ahead and do that. We'll make this a static void verify connection. And generally, when I do C#, I'll do Sybil. I just kind of copy over the object. Since this doesn't actually store any information that's important, we can copy that wherever we need it. So every function I make is essentially just going to be creating a new object, and then the object gets destroyed later on. So we're going to return true here, return false. And all I'm doing is I'm showing you how you would break it apart. Now, this is obviously a bit more involved than the Python version. So if you're coming from Python, you want to see how this works. This is a bit more complex. Uh, so all we're going to do is now we can just say, whoops, if verify connection is equal to true, then console.writeLine success, stuff works. Else console.writeLine credentials invalid. Now, obviously, um, this will be a problem if you don't have any exchange accounts already set up, any price drivers set up. But I'm assuming if you're at this point, you've already have it. So we'll just do a read line at the end. So we hold it open, and we're going to go ahead and run. All right, so stuff works. So now we know we have a valid connection, and we have these accounts correct. So let's go ahead and I'm gonna do this lazy, but you should be doing this smarter than this. We're gonna go ahead and just grab the first account GUID we have. That way we can just store it and use it later. So I'm just gonna do a string called account GUID equal, or account GUID equals this. And then when we come down here, when we process this, we're just gonna do here, let's do this better. Let's just do account, since I know one exists, account GUID equals, what am I doing here? There you go. Okay, static string account GUID equals accounts dot result dot at element at, and then we'll say 0. All right, well, we need to do, is it dot keys dot at. Okay, so it's dot keys dot element at 0. There you go. So what that's going to do is it's going to go ahead, that's going to store the first account GUID in this variable, and then let's just make sure that works. So, okay. Well, didn't want that, but let's go ahead and run it. Looks like it works. Okay. So now we have the account GUID, the first one, whatever the first one is. Obviously, you need to process this with your for each to get the right one, or just statically set it. We're going to get the first, we get the first account GUID stored there to use later. Okay. So now, just to show how we would make another call, let's go ahead and get the account information for a specific GUID. And since we have the GUID, we're gonna use it. So we're gonna make another function, and I like to keep these all separate. And we're just gonna do void for now because I don't know what the return type is. And we're gonna say get account information. I doubt I can do that. Yeah, okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically copy this code. We're going to do the same thing. And we're going to do account information. And here, let's just get rid of this. Okay. And we're going to say from account data API, get account details. So we're going to do dot get account details. And then you'll see that get account details takes an account GUID. And if you remember, we stored a account GUID globally. So we're going to just do that. And then we're going to wait. So we're still forcing the synchronous or the async call to be synchronous. And then we're just going to go ahead and say, let's just say for each var count info. This should only return 1, but for the sake of being and we'll say account information. Actually, I think that's going to fail. This returns, yeah, let's just do this. I know it exists. You should check for it. So we're just going to do Well, let me show you how to do that. So if we do if account information dot result from thing dot error code, error code is an enum error code, and if you remember, or should I say, in the Python version, we're able to check the error code to make sure things are successful. In C# land, we're able to do the exact same thing, and we want to do this for every call to make sure nothing happened. If something bad happened with the API, we'll actually get the error message from Haas. But we're going to say that is equal to, and then we got to enum error code dot, let's say success. Now what that does is it says if this command was successful, then we're going to run this. And then to run, or what we're going to run is, we're just going to do account information dot result dot result again to get thing. And let's say I want the name of the bot, because that's what we're calling. We're calling the account information, getting some more information about the bot. So let's just go ahead, copy this, and we're just going to put it in this verify block. Okay, and hit start. And there it is. There's simulated test is the name of the account, which we know does exist. Fantastic. And there's some other account information we can get. So if I do dot here, you'll see we got like the price sources, any order templates, if it's a simulated account, the platform type, and all of these return something different. So if you want to look at that, you can just look at the documentation, which can be found on our wiki. So we've gotten that part taken up. So we know we can verify the account. We can verify we have a connection. We can get an account to, or account GUID to store to use later, and we can pull information. So let's go ahead. Let's move on. Let's create a bot. So let me find. I have all this saved on the side to make this smooth. So let's just make a simple scalper bot. And to do this, we're just going to say, okay, static again, create scalper bot. Okay. And as before, we're just going to copy this line and this line. Okay. You'll see that there's kind of a pattern here, and you're free to clean this up. This just makes it easier for me to explain. So all we're going to do is with this Haas client, we're going to switch our API we're accessing. So this time we're going to use the custom bot API, and we're going to create a new bot. And we're going to do it with the second option. The second option lets us specify what type of bot we want to create. So to do that, we're going to need to pull in some definition. So if we're going to just go back to the top, you'll see we have this. To make it easy, that's not what I wanted. I'm just going to copy this from off screen real quick. There it is. We're going to pull in this data objects custom bots. And this is just storing that information, but we need that to specify the type of bot we want to be created. So for here, I'll just put Scalper bot. Now, there are other bots we can put. We can put like a market maker here, a market making bot, Mad Hatter, so on and so forth. But like I said, we're going to create a Scalper bot. And we know that a Scalper bot, we need to specify the bot type again. We need to specify the name of the bot we want to give it, the account GUID, and then the market. So what market it exists on. And we're going to go with the second type. So we're just going to, let me pull this in too. Pull in all the enums. So we just put this right here. And this is just going to make us not have to type out a lot here. So we're just going to do enum custom bot type dot scalper bot. Okay. And then we need to give it a name, my fancy scalper, the account GUID, which we have stored. And then we're going to do the longer version. So we can specify it based on giving it a market object, but I don't want to get into that. So we're just going to do this by specifying 2 coins. So the primary coin, we're just going to say, let's do BNB. And then the secondary, which is the main trading pair, BTC, and then no contract name. So what we've done here is we've created a new scalper bot. We've given it a name called My Fancy Scalper. We provided the account GUID, which we got earlier. and then we are giving it a market we want to trade. In this case, we're telling it I want to trade the BNB BTC market. Great. So let's go ahead. Let's change its name to create bot. Wait for that to finish. And now when we get to this point, we should check. So we should do the error code. I'm not going to do it right here to keep the code short, but you should always check to make sure every step passes. Now what we're going to do is we need to configure it. And that's pretty simple also. We're just going to say var configured scalper equals task.run. And like I said, if you know how to work with async directly, you don't ever have to do this task run. But for most people, they'll not want this. So you're going to do it again. You're going to hit custom bot API. In this case, you're going to put setup scalper bot or scalping bot. And you see this time we have quite a bit more information. We need to pass in the bot GUID, which we will get from this create bot variable. The bot name again, because we can change it. The account GUID it's connected to. Then we get the primary and secondary coin, the contract name, and then this is where things get interesting. So we can set the leverage amount. Now this works if we're trading on leverage markets, Bitfinex, BitMEX, etc. But since we are testing against Binance, we are going to leave this as 0. The next thing we have is the trade amount. So this is how much we want to trade of BNB. So if I want to trade 100, 1,000, whatever it is. The next one's going to be the fee amount. So how much should we be calculating for fees? In this case, we're going to just put 0.1%. The position. Now the position is where do we start? Do we have BNB or do we have BTC? So basically a buy and sell position, but specified based on the coin. The template GUID, we're going to leave this to, we'll set this to one of the template GUIDs we have access to, there's a series of lists which will be posted in the description as well, but what we'll be doing is a locked limit order. And what that says is basically no timeout. The order will always be there until it occurs. And this allows you to build your crazy complex templates and use them within the bots. There are certain situations where the Haas GUI won't let you specify a certain template, but because of the power you have with the API, you can actually sort of circumvent that. Now, granted, if you have a multiple buy and sell template, it's probably still going to fail with the Scalper bot, but hey, it's possible if you want to give it a shot. Next, you have the two specific Scalper bot values. You have the target percentage and the target value, or the safety value. And these are the same values that you would be setting within the GUI itself. But let's just go ahead and start populating this. So we know we need the bot GUID, and to make things easy, I'll just do this. New bot GUID equals, and then we're just say create bot dot result dot result dot GUID. Okay. So now we can just do new bot GUID. Then we need the name, so we're just going to keep it my fancy scalper. The account GUID, which we have access to. The primary coin, secondary coin, the contract name, the leverage, the trade amount. We'll say 10 BNB, 0.1 for the fee. We're going to say we only have BTC right now. Template GUID, we're going to supply it with locked limit order GUID. Now there's a lot more than this, but for now that's the easiest one to use because I remembered it. And then the target percentage we want, so let's say 2% and safety 1%. And let's go ahead and save that. Now you see there's two areas where it's yelling at me because I did not specify that it was a decimal. So I believe to do that I just put an M here. Yep. And that tells, that means we're passing in a decimal value. So once that's done, we're just going to do configured scalper.wait, and that should do it. So let's go ahead and do create a scalper bot, and let's see what happens. So I'm dragging off the IDE to the side for a second, and then I'm just going to log into my local instance. Let's go to custom bots, drag this over, let's hit start. And there it is, my fancy scalper. And it has set to exactly what we told it to. Pretty cool, right? So finally what I want to do is I want to show you how to actually backtest a bot. And it's pretty straightforward. I just got to, let's see if we can remember it, or I'm going to have to look it up because C# land. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and we're just going to do it after the create. Let's just run a back test to keep it all in the same area. So what we're going to do is run backtest and do the same thing, task run, async, wait, and then we're going to call the custom bot API dot backtest bot. Test bot. Actually, I'm pretty sure there's a better one, so I'm just going to look it up real quick. Because there's two. Like in Python, there's the ability to backtest the bot based on the time from the current time. There's also a way to do it with the specifying a Unix time, for those who know what that is. And then there's also a backtest on market. And backtest on market is the one you really want to use when you're doing a lot of backtests, because what it allows us to do is it allows us to make sure that we're not pinging the exchange for every update for all the markets. So this is exceptionally useful when we're trying to backtest a lot of markets and we don't want our API to get banned. Now it's important to note that Haas will still try to make updates for these. It's not as frequent, but it will still be a lot. So don't go backtesting 100 markets at a time. Generally say if you could do 10, 20, 30, wait 5 minutes for Haas to unregister them from the auto updates and then run the next batch. So to backtest a bot, basically we're going to do this, the command we already had typed out. And you'll notice that, come on now, there's 3 different backtests. There's the backtest on minutes to test, basically meaning from my exact current time I run this command, this many minutes back I want to run. There is a backtest with the start and end time. Now it's important to note that if you do any of these first two, it's going to ping the exchange for the latest time and then start update on that. So what you want to do is you want to use the third one, which lets us specify a market. Now for our case, we are just going to use the same market, but what it will do is instead of backtesting the main one, it's going to run a backtest on a cloned version and then get rid of it. So we can run a bunch of backtests and not pollute our main bot. So think of our main bot as like a template. So let's just go ahead and we need the new bot GUID. We need a minutes to test. Let's say I want roughly 2 days-ish. Our account GUID. Our primary coin, secondary coin, contract name. Okay, and then we're going to do a run backtest.wait. And then once that's done, we're going to go ahead and do console.write line. And we're going to say run backtest.result. And then we can say our ROI. And that will tell us what our ROI percentage was for that. And then to make it clean, backtest results. Okay, and then let's just see if this works. Create, or what is it? Yeah, oh, we don't have to do that. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead, just close that. We're gonna delete this bot, not that one, and we're gonna run it again. So what we should see is the bot get created, and then a quick flash of another bot being created and backtested, and then we should get our result. All right, well, it didn't like something. Oh, make sure we put all the parentheses. Try it again. And there it is. You saw it run and then it stopped, right? Now there wasn't any return because these settings probably aren't any good. But let's see if we can force a result real quick so we can show how this would work. So we have a safety threshold of 1. Yeah, so 2 and 1. Let's make these really small. Can't do that while we're debugging. Let's just do 0.3, 0.1, and let's see if we can force a really bad bot. Okay, so we're going to save that, delete that. Now bots can have the same name, it just gets a bit confusing. So we're just going to run it again. There we go. So now we have a beautiful result of -97, as expected. This is a quick way, or I guess this was simply to trying to be a quick introduction on how to use the C# API to interact with the Haas software. And you can see it's pretty straightforward. Once you get the gist of how to do the calls and interact with it, everything else tends to fall in place. You can see a full write-up of all of the API functions if you go to wiki.haasonline.com. So let's go ahead. If you look here and you scroll down, if we can find it, I'm just going to search it, API, local API documentation. And if you scroll through here, you'll see all of the available commands you can make. Now, they are generally over this REST API. However, you can kind of figure out what the calls are. If you do have development experience, you can simply look at the source itself. So if you open this up on the GitHub, go to APIs, click Custom Bot API. You can see all the commands here. Or because the Python wrapper is based on the exact same, what's the word I'm looking for? Design has the C#. You can go to, let's see if I can get to it without. Nope, that's not the right HaasAPI. All right, a few seconds. But basically, you can use the Python API documentation to write your C# API. So if you go to the HaasAPI API, go down to API documentation, and then you can actually see the same thing. So like you have a custom bot API. Most of these commands, or most of these functions in Python are in the C# wrapper, or they're very close, so close enough for you to be able to figure it out. But yeah, hopefully that helps you guys get started. I know we covered a lot and I kind of sped through it with less explanation than the last one, but that's mostly because I'm trying to show you guys how to use the software. If you're a beginner to developing software, just go learn it. It does sound like it takes a long time, but if you have an end goal in mind, you're going to get there pretty quick, especially with the ease of interacting with the Haas software. So if you have any questions, feel free to ping me on Discord or ask one of our ambassadors. A lot of them are now doing the development side. They definitely can help you, or some of the support staff can help you as well. If you can also leave any questions in the comments below, I'll make sure to check them out. And generally just have fun with it. It's not that hard. Just make sure everything you're doing is in a simulated or in a simulated account. I myself have had situations where I'm backtesting and running bots live on my live account, so that was always fun. Anyways, till next time, guys, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you then.